Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 535th Imagine Greater Buffalo program and our 157th YouTube presentation. This is hosted by the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, C-SAAHN, as I pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And we certainly hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker. David Rust has been the Chief Executive Officer of Say Yes Buffalo for 11 years. Say Yes Buffalo's mission is to remove barriers to educational attainment, workforce participation, and economic mobility for students in public and charter schools in Buffalo. The nonprofit organization provides a post-secondary tuition promise and cradle-to-career comprehensive support to increase the rates of high school and post-secondary completion and the achievement of fulfilling professional employment. Prior to joining Say Yes Buffalo, David served as Deputy Commissioner for Youth Services and Social Services for Erie County. He focused primarily on juvenile detention and diversion services, runaway and homeless youth services, and funding community-based positive programs for youth. Today, David is here to update us on Say Yes Buffalo's transformational citywide partnership and promise for Buffalo's students. Now, let's hear from David Rust. David, take it away.
Thanks, Dennis. Glad to be here today. Good afternoon, everyone. As Dennis noted, my name is Dave Rust, and I'm the CEO with Say Yes Buffalo here. I'm looking forward to sharing a progress update on the work that we've put together on behalf of children and families in our community since we launched our work a little over a decade ago. I'm not going to go through our entire history, but I'm going to hit on the slides here that I think are critical. So, when we launched our work, we had a theory of change that was built on a scholarship promise married with comprehensive supports directly in the public schools, and stronger public schools would lead to two big goals in our community. One would be increased post-secondary completion, and the next would be real economic gains and revitalization for the city and the region. I think we can all understand that the more educated you are, the more likely you are to be employed, and the more money you're likely to make. When it comes to the talented students in Buffalo, we just firmly believe everyone has potential, but not everyone has been given opportunity, often because of economic means. So hence the scholarship promise that we put in place. I'll touch on the direct economic impact of Say Yes quite a bit in here too, because it's real. I think whether you are looking at Say Yes from an educational gains perspective or economic mobility, this has worked. If we had a 1 percentage point increase the number of Buffalo adults with a bachelor's degree, we add almost $200 million in disposable income into our economy annually. These are feasible numbers. At the end of the day, I think we all want similar things, and that's a safe street, a good education, and access to opportunity. And we're certainly helping on those last two. So since we launched over a decade ago, we had the graduation rate at that point in time was 49%. It was not a one-year dip. We had a slow decline. If we had stayed at that 49%, we would have 4,386 less graduates of our high schools during the first 9 years of our work. And you can see the spending power that's attributed to that now, $1.2 billion. Similarly, just over our first 6 years, and we've got more extensive data now, we helped over 10,000 students enroll in college. For those that have completed, you can see the earning power that they now have, an additional $8.6 billion built off 60% completing 4-year degrees and 40% completing 2-year degrees. This region is also calling for 170,000 open jobs in the next decade, with 2/3 requiring some type of post-secondary credential. And our biggest opportunity is right here with our children in the city of Buffalo. So here's some of the data that we've been able to work on collectively. I'm going to talk about who's involved in Say Yes later because it is a transformational citywide partner. In no way do we take credit for this. I think the graduation rate increase of 30 points in Buffalo's public schools is directly attributable to the work that's happening under there with our current incredible superintendent, Dr. Tanja Williams. The college going rate is up 17%. For college, we do consider that certificates, 2-year degrees and 4-year degrees. And post-secondary completion is up 14%. So we've been able to successfully move the needle at every level of the work for the big system-wide goals that we had put forward. We have we just got a new data run on this. It's actually over 3,600 college completers right now. You can see the breakdown of bachelor's and associate's degrees with about 5% coming in with certificates. And of those 3,600, we employ many of them here at Say Yes Buffalo. So these are some of our talented team members that are working here at Say Yes, living and contributing to the work here, again, with thousands of their peers doing this amazing work elsewhere in the region. So I'll talk a little bit about how we have funded this. We've made some progress here too. So this has been a tremendous investment from the Buffalo community and something that's really critical to the long-term health and vitality of our community. It is just hard to envision a thriving Buffalo and surrounding region without access to education and a good job after that. The first 10 years, we raised approximately $30 million that funded scholarships from the fall of 2013 through the spring of 2023. We then decided that if successful, that we would work to endow a scholarship that would allow access to higher education in perpetuity. So we kicked off our campaign with a goal of $65 million a little under 6 years ago. We have now raised, we've got 4 million left to go. We've made some progress. We had one anonymous investor who's contributed $15 million. New York State has contributed 20 million. Buffalo businesses, individuals, and foundations have collectively contributed $26 million. And again, we've got about $4 million to go to complete an endowment campaign, which will be here forever. Just it's an incredible investment in the children in this community. I think from an organizational perspective, it allows us to be off the hamster wheel of fundraising and for our community to focus on other critical initiatives that we want to take a look at, whether that's, workforce, housing, et cetera. We are a last dollar scholarship, so we come in after New York State aid and federal aid. We also do have a tremendous partnership with private colleges. So Buffalo students can attend any SUNY or CUNY school in New York State, and then 100 private colleges around the country. Great local institutions like Niagara, Canisius, Villa Maria, Hilbert. They can attend regional schools, the U of R, RIT, Syracuse. They can attend nationally competitive schools too. Buffalo students are eligible at every Ivy League institution and other amazing places like Duke and Georgetown and Notre Dame. So it really is a tremendous opportunity for students. So I'm going to pivot a bit to our services and supports. I mean, we fundamentally understood that a scholarship promise is one thing. If a student doesn't have proper food, clothing, shelter, they won't be able to access that scholarship. It won't matter whether that's 3, 5, 7 years from now. And they're less likely to persist once they do access the scholarship itself. So we went to work building a web of supports for students over the last decade, many of them based in the public schools, many of them on college campuses. So I'll start on the far left. So we have 3-year-old instruction for students in the public schools, where they have early entry to school district services and supports. They then have automatic admit into the district's UPK program and kindergarten. We screen students as they enter the district for social emotional learning to see where they are. We have social service caseworkers and health caseworkers covering every public school building. We have mental health care and clinics available in every public school building. We have civil legal clinics available in partnership with Volunteer Lawyers Project and many law firms locally. We have mobile health units. Then we have an abundance of extended learning time opportunities. So summer camp for students in pre-K through 6th grade and Saturday academies under the community schools model. I'll pause on that for a moment. If you came out Saturday, you would see hundreds of students in the 23 designated community schools. There's art, music, and science. There's one-to-one math and English. structured recreation time, 2 hot meals, parental employment opportunities. And I'll give one example here of how we measure stuff. Like, we do work not to be a slow, clunky nonprofit. If you're going to ask people for their time, their political will, and their money, we think it's really important that you're showing outcomes. So, for example, with the Saturday academies, once students attend 3 times, their academic scores are going up, school attendance is going up, and discipline referrals are decreasing. We've got similar dashboards for each of our work. As students move to pre-college programs, we provide college and financial aid assistance. We've got high school to college transitional programs. We have a mentoring program for young men of color. We have a college transition curriculum available. And then on campus itself, we have all the resources you'll see in the far right. In addition to the tuition scholarships and sometimes more, we have paid internships, on-campus success counselors, mental health supports, and also an alumni network. And next, I'm going to talk about our evolution. I intentionally didn't mention our apprenticeship program there because of 3 years ago, we really started to think about what was the next phase for us in growing and evolving as an organization. We had spent the first 9 years focused on the 3 puzzle pieces, blue, green, and red that you see. We decided that it was time for us to step into workforce in a meaningful way. And we settled on our role in providing apprenticeships. So you can see how we define it here. There's 3 major components to it: paid employment, on-the-job learning, and related classroom-based instruction. We thought that this is a really important addition to our portfolio. In a given year, about 70% of students in the public schools take advantage of our scholarship. 30% are going right to work. Free college can be too expensive. I think students are often forced to choose what they have to do, not what they may want to do. And we felt if we could provide an apprenticeship where students were being paid while they were learning, that we could raise their career floor big time in terms of earnings and job access. So I'll stick on this for a moment. So we're in our 3rd year of our apprenticeship. We put 25 students in year 1, 25 year 2. We're currently recruiting for 50 slots. Students can enter tracks in accounting or financial services, business operations, manufacturing, IT, and the culinary field. So an example of what that looks like, I guess I'll share our employer partners, our M&T Bank and Wegmans and Moog and Riches, Buffalo News, 5 Star Bank, Delaware North, major employers in the region. I'll give an M&T example where a young man graduated Hutch Tech. He is finishing the 2nd year of his apprenticeship. He is working in accounting at M&T Bank, accounts receivable, and he has taken the courses at Villa Maria College requested by M&T. So he's got the technical skills to do the work. So he's taken accounting and finance and business operations courses. He has 1 year left of his apprenticeship, and then he is guaranteed the promise of a $45,000 job on the back end. So it's an amazing opportunity. And again, we've got, about 100 examples of the apprenticeship work currently underway. Before I close and turn it over for any questions that Dennis or you may have, I did want to talk a little bit about, how we're governed. We have an incredible board of directors, civic and business leaders that manage our operation. It's one of the tremendous assets of C-SAAHN Buffalo. Equally important, I want to point to our operating committee. This is a guiding framework that we built a decade ago. You can't tackle hard jobs alone. We have had tremendous support from our city, our county, our school district, and our state in terms of their time, their political will, and their money. What we are trying to do simply wouldn't work alone. And I credit regularly the partners on the screen here for stepping up to support the Say Yes initiative. We continue to meet monthly on the goals we have set, monitoring progress, and then how we're going to fund the resources needed so that students can continue to graduate high school, enter post-secondary programs, and complete them at a high level, well above national averages. We also have a leadership council, which meets regularly. We have our first public meeting in many years due to the pandemic coming back May 1st, 8:30 a.m. Villa Maria College. So we'd love to have you there if you're interested in learning more about the work that Say Yes is doing in a live setting. So I'm going to end the formal part of the presentation. I do want to comment, as I had shared with Dennis earlier, what's next for us. And our next big initiative will be a partnership with the Niagara Falls City Schools. I firmly believe, as I said, the students there are talented, have potential, are not always given opportunity. They've had some really good work happening up there under the leadership of their superintendent, Mark Laurie. And, when we can take a regional approach to things that have worked at a systems level, with a focus on talent development for young people, we can and we should. So we're deep into conversations with Niagara Falls and the school district there about adding a SAS Niagara Falls site. There's 4 core components that we are looking at launching there. The apprentice and workforce portfolio, the Saturday academies, the mentoring for our young men of color, and the scholarships. The program work will go, and we will enter a separate capital campaign to fundraise to have a similar endowed scholarship fund for Niagara Falls students as we have in Buffalo. We're running the final figures. I expect that will be somewhere around another $15 to $18 million raise. But boy, what an incredible generational investment. It will be here when we are all long gone, helping people with access to an education and ultimately economic mobility. So I'll pause there. There's plenty of time for questions, and I'm happy to take any from Dennis or anyone else here. So Dennis, I'll turn it back to you to facilitate.
Thank you, David. What an outstanding program. If most people are like myself, you're vaguely aware that Say Yes is out there doing something, but this quick overview has been enlightening. Folks, send in your questions. This is a great opportunity to chat with the leadership and the real leader of this program, David Russ. So let me begin it off. And I love the slant towards workforce development, that extra layer. It seems so consistent with other things going on. 2 things I hear are problematic. A, kids not returning to school, COVID, whatever. They're just a decent percentage aren't there. Wondering if your program in any way sees that as something to focus on or not. But the second one is getting kids to graduate when they start something, like a 2-year school or something like that. It sounds to me like you've got completion rates, a model of success for completion rates. That's a big deal, I would think. Can you comment on either or both?
Yeah, I mean, first, thanks for that question. There's a lot of work left to do here. We have been able to successfully move the needle on post-secondary entrance and completion, and we are above national averages for urban districts and districts that are majority students of color. That said, our students have complicated lives. We have about 2,200 students on scholarship right now, 40% with combined family income below $25,000. They are making hard choices every day, and it's on us to support them as best possible. So, we have of those that enter, about 70% make it to the second year. So we're in line with national averages there too. Our biggest response to that, and one that we are looking to grow, is we have college success counselors on the campuses at Villa Maria, University at Buffalo, Buffalo State, and SUNY Erie, which are our 4 largest feeder institutions, where, if a student has a challenge on access to a bus pass, food pantry services, may need additional support in math or English, that there's great professionals that look like those students on the campuses that are able to link them to the services as needed. Attendance, we have seen some of that too. I think that post-pandemic, one of the biggest things we've seen is students and families that aren't able to or aren't willing to wait the full 4 years. They want quicker access to the workforce. Hence the point of the apprenticeship model was to have alternative pathways where you can earn a certificate or 2-year degree and earn money at the same point in time. And we're introducing in the next few months additional on-ramps into the portfolio, including pathways that are 1 year or shorter. So students, again, have quicker access to the workforce. Dennis?
Wonderful. Very good. Allison, how are we doing? And questions?
Yes, we have a couple.
Good.
Our first question is, what is your take on the impact of local parents' positive or negative attitudes on student attendance?
The I think it's more than perception is, my experience, and I think you saw a few of the elected parent bodies have a voice on our advisory committee, is hardworking, caring parents, committed to their students, working, many of them working 2 and 3 jobs, often taking public transportation to get there. So they also have complicated lives. We view our work as allowing teachers to focus on what they need to focus on a day-to-day basis. By having social service supports and mental health supports and the promise of scholarship, it makes teachers' jobs easier. I'd say the same for parents. Our scholarship and our services are here to give parents the sense of relief they may need as they have, complicated lives and are working multiple jobs while still aiming to provide the best possible future for their young man or their young woman. So again, nothing but respect for the parents in the school district and in the city of Buffalo. They work hard, they care, and I view them as fully vested in the success of their children.
Thank you.
You're
Our
welcome.
next question is, attending college requires a lot more than tuition, such as books and fees. Do you help support those expenses?
In some cases, yes. For students with the most need, we provide an additional $2,600 for those that are living on campus, and we have a $500 commuter grant for students that are commuting. I think a couple things you'll see this summer that we are announcing. When we conclude our campaign, we're announcing some minor edits to our scholarships in order to protect the scholarship long-term. We are recommitting to the promise we made a decade ago. And one of the goals is to do more for the students with the most need. And it won't be done. I mean, I fully anticipate that we will always continue to fundraise for more resources for students with the most needs. Number one. And number two, the power of endowment is over time that endowment will grow. We have a full part of our strategic plan is built around equity and the most supports we can possibly provide for students with the most need. And if that's somebody is interested in contributing to, please reach out. We certainly have a separate fund for students that need those additional supports.
Okay, and is Say Yes a national program?
So C-SAAHN Buffalo is an independent body that is governed locally by our board of directors. And Niagara Falls will come under the C-SAAHN Buffalo umbrella. There is an interesting national story. So there was a former national office, C-SAAHN to Education, and it was founded by a gentleman named George Weiss. He has since closed that national nonprofit. And the one shared service is now located in Buffalo. But George and his family emigrated from Austria in 1939. They settled in the Connecticut area, and he was working since he was 10 years old. He had a full ride to the University of Pennsylvania, and while he was there, him and his fraternity brothers adopted a group of young men. They played basketball with them, played pool with them, had them to their fraternity house for meals. And by young men, they were a self-titled gang in Philadelphia. They called themselves the 12 Apostles, and George took them out to lunch 2 years after he graduated. They had all graduated high school at that point, and he asked them how they did it. And they responded to George that we couldn't look you and your fraternity brothers in the eye after all you'd done for us and not do our part. So George made a silent pledge with himself. He was a hedge fund manager in New York. In 1987, he walked into a classroom in West Philly and told 112 seventh graders, if you complete high school, I'll pay for your college. At this point in time, it was the Say No to Drugs, Nancy Reagan slogan, and he called his work Say Yes to Education. And he funded kids winning the lottery like that 5 other times in Harlem and Philly and Cambridge and Hartford. And then he took the work citywide in 2008. So Syracuse, Buffalo, and Cleveland all have a Say Yes designation. Again, he closed the national nonprofit, and given that Buffalo is the most established to the work, the one shared service now runs out of Buffalo. But George ultimately invested about $20 million in seeding Say Yes Buffalo, just a tremendous investment at a point in time where Buffalo was not receiving outside philanthropic attention. So eternally grateful to George. So we are an independent model, but we were able to learn from George, and I think represent the work well. And he really believed in young people in Buffalo, and we were lucky to have him.
Dennis, those are all our questions.
Thank you, Allison. Actually, you just touched on something, David. would you say and we're rapidly approaching the second anniversary of May 14th, the event. Has that moved the needle of national awareness to tap into relative to your program, given its success in connecting the community in a very, very unique way, I would say?
Yeah, I mean, that was a devastating day. We're located on Jefferson Avenue, a block away. We partnered with many organizations to provide family support services. And it was intentional that we're here in this neighborhood. And I think when I say it, I meant what I said earlier. Everyone has potential. Not everyone has been given opportunity. And there's absolutely a history of racial and economic segregation here in Buffalo and Western New York. I think one of the beautiful things about Say Yes is it provides that opportunity to everybody. And it could certainly be adapted. Whether you're living in rural Ohio or, a neighborhood in Detroit, again, I do think everybody wants access to a safe street, access to an education, and access to a job that earns a living wage. And there's people all over that aren't being given that opportunity right now. So I think Say Yes is a replicable, adaptable model meant to meet the unique needs of each community. Right now we maintain our full focus on the students in Buffalo and next Niagara Falls. I could certainly envision a day where we partner with other communities to share our model and help other communities give children the same opportunity that those in Buffalo have today. Dennis?
Thank you. The point, I guess I was also thinking, there are major foundations, Ford foundations, et cetera. Are you suddenly have the potential for receiving additional funding from those groups because of May 14th, that it sadly highlighted Buffalo in that degree, and there are these organizations trying to solve problems, and you seem to be a model of success for solving problems. So I just wondered if that's a new avenue of potential support for funding at different levels. That was the nature of the question.
So, I mean, we're the one community in town that's received a Gates Foundation investment, and that was to help take the supports we've had in the high schools and elementary schools and put those onto college campuses. So we've had a longstanding relationship. We are in networks with National Philanthropy, and this summer we'll be announcing the next investment from National Philanthropy from Say Yes Buffalo. So yes, we are on the radar. I mean, and I think that's because of the opportunity that we're providing young people. And the results, we've had good outcomes here, and we need to continue to do that, Dennis.
Well, people like to invest in good outcomes, and I'm delighted. I created this Imagine Greater Buffalo program and this platform 15 years ago. COVID helped put it into a YouTube presentation, but what it does is give a platform for all the incredible groups that do exist. Volunteers that and obviously organized staffs like yourself that connect these, what I often thought were silos, whether it's government, different organizations all doing their thing, but needing this basis for connecting them. David, if nothing else, you are a connector that has put a lot of these silos together, community foundations, et cetera, to get results. And my hat's off to you. Community's hat should be off to you as well.
Thanks, Dennis. It's a lot of great people. We couldn't have done it alone. So, including the Community Foundation, as you noted.
It takes leadership, and that's what I'm patting you on the back for. Congratulations in that sense.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions pop up?
Yes. We have one more. Does Say Yes offer are there any volunteer opportunities?
Presently, no. I could envision that in the future. If we're going to do things, I want to do it really well. And we don't have an assigned team member that could work with volunteers to ensure they have the quality experience that they deserve. Down the road, I'm hopeful that that's something we'll be able to add. I would point to those interested to volunteering. We've got a partner agency, Read to Succeed, that does tutoring for students in the Buffalo Public Schools. Their executive director is Ann Ryan, and they do a really good job stewarding their volunteers. So that's where I would point to someone for now, but please check in down the road because there may be opportunities to come.
Good. One last little detail. You seem to know your clientele, the students of Buffalo. Do some individuals have a pool of students that they get to know, get to have a sense of their needs, or it doesn't work that way? Because you seem in touch with understanding where the students are.
Yeah, I mean, one of my leadership philosophies is don't get on the mountaintop, right? Like you have to stay connected with the needs of individuals you're working with. It can't be somebody somewhere else that is, we all have to be connected. And so, yeah, I do work to stay connected to students and the families we're working with, and our team does the same. I think everybody here at Say Yes is a connection point with the students and families we're working with, given, we have 200 team members, many of them doing direct service work with students and families, Dennis.
Good, good. Well, David, thank you again for bringing us up to date. What a progress report. Thank you for it. And folks, thank you for joining us again today. And we hope you'll be back here next week on Zoom as we're joined by Bernice Radley, rather. Bernice is the Executive Director of Preservation Buffalo Niagara, and that's an organization that identifies, protects, and promotes Western New York's unique architecture and historic legacy. I'm Dennis Galucki. See you next week. In the meantime, be well and good day.